Through his trials in the military, he's learned that anything is possible if you think it is. Eric Upchurch, welcome to the show. When I think of somebody that's been through 5 military battle deployments, I think to myself, man, there's a guy that I respect.
When people say, hey, I did this hard thing, I'm like, was it? Whether over, around, or through, that is how you grow. Humans are made for growth. I'm a big real estate investor and I teach people how to do that stuff. When you put something out there and you start inching toward it 1% better every single day, you approach your goals. If you want to get into some industry or change something about you or whatever it is, the success formula that I've kind of put together in words is just...
Welcome to the Lee Labrada Show.
Brought to you by Lean Body, the #1 protein shake in gyms across America.
Welcome back, you guys. As you know, the goal of the Lee Labrada Show is to help you improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health. I like to bring on experts that can help us to improve in all of these areas. And my guest today is an outstanding leader. While serving our country, he completed 5 combat deployments and earned a master's degree in Aeronautical Science while managing a 27-man squad deployed around the globe. He now helps veterans build their business, and his team also builds tiny homes for homeless veterans. His nonprofit builds permanent structures in their communities with the aim to end veteran homelessness this decade. His personal mission is to educate, empower, and to help people grow. And through his trials in the military, he's learned that anything is possible if you think it is. One of his favorite sayings is, mind over matter. Eric Upchurch, welcome to the show.
I am honored to be here. And I have to say, Lee, that is probably the best intro I've received. What a great summary of my bio. It's great.
Well, my friend, you have certainly earned that. Not only do you talk the talk, but you walk the walk, which is the most important thing. Now, Eric, when I think of somebody that's been through 5 military battle deployments, I think to myself, man, there's a guy that I respect. And this is a guy that's learned a lot about discipline and hardship. What brought you to the military?
Well, I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, and my wife, my now wife, we've been married 18 years, and we were kind of driving home from a family weekend, with our family. And she's like probably trying to figure out if I'm the right one for her at that time. We've been dating for probably 9 months or so. And she's like, so what do you want to do with your life? We had a 4-hour drive. She's like, what do you want to do with your life? I was a bellman at the Four Seasons, and I was like working construction on the side and just, I don't know, kind of probably like a lot of college grads trying to figure it out. Right. And my dad was in the police force. His twin brother, all of my uncles were like DEA, FBI, retired Marine, and all of them were kind of like, "Don't do this, Eric." But I feel like it was part of my being to go explore it, and so I felt that and I sought it out, and so I went to the Coast Guard first. I was like, okay, first of all, if I'm going to check out the military, I do not want to get shot at. I do not want to get hurt. I don't want to be kicking doors down. Like, let's go serve the country in the safest way possible. That was my mentality going in, right? So I go to the Coast Guard. Coast Guard's not hiring. I go to the Navy. Navy's not hiring. Air Force is like, we're kicking everybody out of the Air Force to go to the Army. This is 2004. And so I went to the Army. And the Army goes, we'll take you. We have 200 jobs you can choose from. And so I said, all right, which one can I do that's the safest? Again. So I was like, all right, aviation looks good. Let's go that route. So I picked a job in aviation. I went to basic training and AIT, and then which is advanced training, and then got selected for special operations because I was the top of my class in that capacity.
So was it the safest job?
Absolutely not. I thought it was going to be a very safe job.
When you said special ops, it doesn't sound very safe.
Yeah, I didn't enlist. And here's another thing too. I could have gone in, and this goes into kind of my leadership, just my inherent knack. I hate to say it ability, but my knack for leadership, or just I always end up in a leadership position since I was detasseling corn in the cornfields of Iowa when I was 12. I always ended up as a team leader. And I didn't choose that. I didn't try it. I don't ever try to do that. It's just what I love in life is taking information, getting a new experience, and then really digesting it and and breaking it down into something that is like a one pager, so I can share it to the masses. So I'll go try something, figure it out, and make it easier for others. And that always kind of made my bosses go, hey, do you want to manage this team and do that? You seem to have understood that pretty well. So I've always done that. And so when I left college, I enlisted, I could have been an officer. And most people with a college degree would go in and go on the commission side, on the officer side. But I chose to be enlisted for two reasons. One, or more than two reasons. One, I wanted to serve. Obviously, at that point, I was kind of committed to like service. Two, I knew that it would pay off all of my college debt, my 4-year college debt, if I enlisted instead of becoming an officer. So that was obviously a smart decision and a big part of it as well. And then three, I had an inkling at that point that managing people was something that I was interested in doing. And I knew that as a 24-year-old enlisting, the people I was going to be surrounding myself by intentionally at basic training and advanced training, the initial 6 months of anyone's service, would be like 18-year-old knuckleheads that I feel like I could really help out. So that was kind of an intentional thing that I did. And now how I didn't sign up for special operations. Special operations found me by accident, and I'll explain that as quickly as I can here. I was getting married 6 months after I enlisted. Date was set. We were getting married down in Santa Barbara County. And I knew I had to make it back by July 31st or I was not going to get married to my wife. So that means I had to be on top of it. Couldn't miss a test. Couldn't fail a test, a written test, a physical test. Couldn't piss off the wrong drill sergeant. Couldn't break an ankle. Couldn't do anything wrong. So because I was trying to make it to my wedding on time, I ended up at the Distinguished Honor Grad for my class, and because of that, I got selected to 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment.
That's a really interesting story. Because what came to mind while you were saying that was that a lot of times, we have a goal that we're shooting for, but because we do such a great job along the way, it opens up other doors. And so obviously your goal was to make sure you did everything right, and so you could get back in time to get married. And obviously by doing that, it caught the attention of all of your superiors, and you got promoted. So kudos. Now, Eric, let me ask you something. What are some of the hardest things that you've ever gone through in your life, and how did you get through?
Whew, man, starting off with the most important question, I feel like. The hardest thing I've ever done is stand over my fallen comrade's casket and fold a flag while his mother was crying and trying to maintain military bearing. So watching, I buried 6 of my friends. We lost 19 while I served in the unit. Because again, I was a squared away soldier. I was tasked as the burial detail non-commissioned officer in charge. So anytime we lost a guy in combat or to suicide or from a motorcycle accident or anything like that, we would go and perform their services. It wasn't like an Arlington thing where somebody, unless they chose that and qualified for that, their family could go choose that. But for the families who wanted to be buried wanted their sons to be buried in their home cemetery, we would rally the troops, stop what we were doing, and we would go to their homes and carry the casket. So we were the pallbearers. We were their 21-gun salute, full honors, and fold that flag over their casket. And these aren't people you don't know. These are people you served in basic training with and ended up in the same unit. And when you're in the unit, you don't leave the unit. So some of these guys I'd known for 6 years. And here I am carrying them to their final resting place. And honestly, without even knowing it, tearing me up inside. And you have to suppress tears because you're in uniform and you're trying to get it done the right way. And it's super, super high pressure. I can't even imagine the cortisol flowing through my veins at that point. And all my guys doing the same thing. But just trying to do it right out of respect, but you're also human. And so you've got this human element you're trying to keep down of like, I'm never going to see this guy again. And I can hear his mother weeping. So when people say, hey, I did this hard thing, I'm like, was it? So a perspective, a mindset shift I had to make when I got out of the service was a total reframe. of my experiences were mine. And I can't expect Lee, who had a bad day and gets cold coffee in line at Starbucks in front of me and is really mad at the barista for making the wrong drink and he's pissed off. I can't expect him to have that perspective that I have.
It just puts it in a different perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. Yep.
And so
so that was the hardest. And then I've done so many physically demanding things and used that mental part as kind of bait to get me to the finish line. I'm glad to talk about those things because I'm super passionate about too.
That's an amazing story, and certainly one that a lot of our servicemen and women can relate to, and it's just got to be heartrending. So I just want to commend you on that, and thank you for your service. And let me ask you this: I'd like to get inside your head. Eric, you said that you're big on figuring out your why, asking ourselves why we do the things that we do. And I've heard you say that you encourage people to go through and ask themselves why 7 layers deep. Can you explain that? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I ask anybody on the street or anybody kind of in my peer group in general, day to day, what's your why? What drives you? Most people, just by default, as a quick answer, will say my family. I'm a big real estate investor and I teach people how to do that stuff. But it's most people say I want financial freedom because my family. I want to do it for my family. They deserve it. And while that might be their why, their absolute end all be all, most important thing to them. So not discrediting that. I would like to pry in a little bit when I'm allowed to and go, well, why is it important that your family gets that from you? And then really going back to the 4-year-old boy inside you who experienced something and really digging into the psychology of why that's important. And if you ask yourself, why is it important that your family has the life that you think they deserve? And then you go, well, because they're great people. Well, why do you feel like they're this great set of people that deserve more than the rest? And it can go all the way down to like, my mother treated me like this. And I felt like this when I was a kid and I was always in the dark and so if you keep going down to the point where you're almost in tears, that's where you want to get, because having a why is one thing, but having a deep-rooted why and sense of mission and purpose is what is going to get you through the absolute most difficult times of your life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that's really, really important.
Very, very well put. Sometimes you ask people, what your why is, and how often should we be doing that? In other words, do we ask ourselves why one time to determine what makes us tick, what our life mission is, and then we dig down like that? Or is that something that we need to do periodically to better understand our habits?
Yeah. I would say 2 answers: every year at minimum, and then every time you're approaching a goal. Because as you know, when you put something out there and you start inching toward it 1% better every single day, you approach your goals. Like I have my vision boards in front of me and I look at them all the time, and I have ending veteran homelessness this decade. We're inching towards that. I know by the end of this decade, we're going to end veteran homelessness in the U.S. It's happening. We can see the numbers behind it. We know that there's a number that we can raise that will solve the problem. It's a doable thing. But what happens with all this passion for 10 years that I put into that, and then we reach the peak? It's a false summit. There has to be a mountain behind it. So when you're similar with your why, you need to reevaluate your why every at least every year, but certainly as you approach some big, huge goal that you're trying to accomplish, because your why and your passion, your mission, your drive is going to shift as your goals do.
You just said that your goal should be to get 1% better. Is it daily? Does that start by making small changes to habits?
It can. Honestly, leading with the success formula that I've kind of put together in words is just, and this applies to any industry really, it's just learning. If you want to get into some industry or change something about you or get into a habit or whatever it is, it's learn all you can about the thing first. Like there's podcasts. You can go and listen to your podcast. You can listen to my you can listen to all kinds of podcasts and read about it and all that stuff. So you can figure it out. You got to kind of learn the language of what you want to do, right? Then you've got to network your butt off. You got to get to know people who are doing that thing. Then you have to add value. That's the third thing. You have to add value to the community that you're trying to get into. If you're trying to build a community around, Jeeps or something, okay, great. Go and interject yourself and add value to that community based on your knowledge or your time or your talent or your treasure, right? And then you've got to take action. If you don't take action on any of that stuff, it's meaningless. You've got to put it to work. You're going to fail. I tell my kids this all the time. My kids are 11 and 14. I tell them all the time, fail. Fail early, fail often, and then grow from it. You just don't do the same thing twice. And so if people do that, if people do those four things with the intention of only being 1% better every day, success will hunt you down. You don't even have to go look for it. You don't have to go like, where am I going to find what I'm looking for? Just put that 1% effort into those things. And I promise you, in a short amount of time, you'll find success.
I love the emphasis on the action, because I always tell people that what's really important is to start. A lot of times people spend so much time figuring out what's the most perfect way of doing this. And I'm going to plan on this and plan on that. And then before you know it, you have all this time behind you, that you've wasted. And sometimes it's just better to start and to learn on the fly. Let me ask you something. In the context of self-improvement, I've heard you say that the obstacle is the way. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, whether over, around, or through, that is how you grow. Humans are made for growth. We're built for growth. We're not built for stagnation. We're not built. I'm standing up right now. I stand all day because I want to be able to be mobile the rest of my life. If I sit down for too long, I'm starting to get aches and pains and stuff. I'm 43 years old and I feel 25. And you got to keep mobile. But the same thing with your mind. Same thing with your business attitude, your aptitude. You've got to keep on moving things forward and growing. So whatever obstacle you find, it's there on purpose. It's there to as a challenge. Are you going to go over this, around it, or through it? Or are you going to just go the other way? And if you're with the masses, you're going to go the other way. And I don't think that we're built for that. And right now, I mean, if you look biologically, if you go back, we're not built. We're built to be moving, and we're built to. I'm sure you can relate to this too on the like intermittent fasting. You didn't wake up and have cereal 10,000 years ago. You woke up and you were like, where do I find food? It's going to be 2 p.m. before I find some berries or something to kill and eat. So you ate one time a day if you were lucky, and that's how our biology still is, but technology is faster than us. So if we don't keep growing, we're just going to deteriorate. And so the obstacle is absolutely the way. I'm constantly putting myself in a position to do hard things, and I bring people with me to do it. So it's really fun.
How do you keep yourself in shape?
Yeah, good question. Talking to you about it, I mean, I don't know if I should say, but no, I lift heavy weights. Take weights from one place and put them in another place, and then I walk. I've found that just walking on the treadmill, between 15 and 25,000 steps a day, which takes some time, but I can still work while I'm doing that. Man, I feel good. I'm productive. I'm getting my body what it needs. And then I eat my wife cooks dinner every night. We have family meals and stuff. So she keeps me on track with that stuff. So yeah, just activity, lifting heavy weight. I don't swim, I don't bike, and I don't run. And what's funny about that is I just did a half Ironman in December without swimming, biking, or running to train.
You just dove in.
Cold turkey. I had never done a triathlon.
And how did that go?
It was miserable. I don't recommend. But I'll tell you this. So yeah, first time I jumped into the 57 degree. Also, after Navy, I went to Navy SEER school, survival course for people at high risk of captivity. And since that course, it was in Maine in the spring, it was 4 degrees. Since that time, I cannot stand cold water. And so when I did this triathlon, it was 57 degree water, Wetsuit's mandatory. I'd never swam in a wetsuit. So the first time I jumped in, he's like, you've been in cold water before. You just, and you can't breathe. Your heart's racing.
That's right.
And so I was that guy on the swim.
Yep.
Doing the backstroke.
Yep.
I was doing the breaststroke. I was doing everything I could just to survive.
People don't realize that when you first jump into the water with a wetsuit, there's a thin film of that water that actually gets into that suit. You know, it gets between the skin and the neoprene on that suit, and then it warms up. You know, but yeah, it'll definitely knock the breath out of you.
Yep. And so 1.2 mile swim took me an hour, which is slow as molasses. Then you get on the bike for 56 miles. And I'll tell you, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, mile 38, there's no music, no headphones, because it was an Ironman race. You're not allowed to have anything in. So it's just me and my thoughts. And I'm out there in Palm Springs in the middle of nowhere on some, backcountry road, feeling every bump, getting aggravated, getting in my head. And mile 38, I'm sitting up with no hands, using my arms, my triceps to push my legs down.
Wow.
Because my legs hurt so bad. And that's when I said my why. And I have it memorized, and it is something that makes me be like, shut up, Eric. Like, this is a blessing to be here right now. As much as it hurts, keep pushing. And so finished the 56 miles, and then went right into the half marathon and finished. And it's 7.5 hours of work. So
you said that you told yourself your why. What is your why, Eric?
Yeah. I serve with the memory and pride of those who've gone before me, for they love to fight, fought to win, and would rather die than quit.
I love it.
So when I am having a hard time, that's going to get me up. Because
I would certainly see that.
Guys I put in the ground would love to feel the pain in my legs.
That's just an amazing way of framing it. Let me ask you on that note, what is your biggest personal goal?
Number one is ending veteran homelessness, which we're on track to do. We've reduced the veteran homelessness population from 38,000 to 32,000 in the last 3 or 4 years. And we're raising a bunch of money. I do these really hard, I call them Challenge for Charity. I do these really hard hikes, and I get a group of real estate investor friends together, and we raise a bunch of money. We've raised almost $500,000 just from doing hikes. So
that's amazing. Can you tell us about that housing program that you have for homeless veterans? You said you're building tiny homes.
Yep. So veteranscommunityproject.org, they're a platinum rated 501c3, and they started in Kansas City, Missouri, and now they have 6 communities nationwide and 3,000 cities on the wait list who just need funding and land and city approval. So they're building 260 to 320 square foot permanent dwellings. They're slab construction, beautiful little tiny homes that will house a veteran and or their families. They can have up to families of 4 or even 5 in some of the larger units. And their communities, like they'll buy a 2-acre parcel, put 50 tiny homes on it, and there's interweaving sidewalks and fire pits and communal areas, and they're all different shapes and angles, and so it really does look like a little town. And then the way that they build them is safe for a veteran like myself who has PTSD. So the bed is facing the door. There's no windows that can see in another unit. And so some of those things are very well thought out. When the veteran transitions in, they get their only rent that is due is for them to show up to their case manager every week.
Wow.
And I'll also
that's
say,
fantastic.
This is not necessarily, this is not the program for veterans who don't want help. There are those that you see on the side of the road holding a sign, and they're wasted, and they're just clearly not in a place to receive help. This is the 38,000 veterans like me who lost their job or lost their house somehow and need a temporary transition place. And they might need some help learning how to cook. They might need some dental work. They might need their dog to be groomed. They might need some vocational rehab, learning a job or skill. They might need some credit repair. That is all done on site. And that is what I'm talking about when I say that they meet with their case managers. So the case managers aren't psychiatrists. These aren't veterans that are, have psychological stuff. Maybe they do, but they'll refer them out to the VA for that. So it's really making a huge impact. And I've taken my family out to the communities and helped them build. And it's just fantastic.
Such a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah.
Now, on that note of teaching veterans, helping them to learn, you help veterans to learn how to invest in real estate. Has that been rewarding?
Oh my gosh. Talk about rewarding. We have 72,000 members right now that are military real estate investors. And we started it with just a little tiny Facebook group about 6 years ago. And now it's grown into the largest military real estate investing education company and community in the world. And we have 36 meetups worldwide. We have a lending company, an insurance company now. We have a real estate brokerage for educating realtors on how to help military members buy right instead of just buying a single family house at duty station, when they go to one place or the other. Now they can buy up to a fourplex, learn how to buy a fourplex with no money down also, which you can do with a VA loan. But no one was teaching me that. In 2005, nobody taught me that. So we're teaching veterans and service members the things that we know, but we wish we knew then also. So really filling that niche.
Eric, how did it occur to you, to start teaching these veterans about the real estate? In other words, this was part of your journey, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sharing experience. Honestly, my partner Markian, he's a third generation Ukrainian immigrant, and grew up in Ukraine. He's a Marine helicopter pilot, United States Marine helicopter pilot now. And he started writing down his experience. He bought a turnkey property, and then he followed somebody and who helped him buy he followed a multifamily guru, helped him buy a 52 unit. And then I found him, and he goes, whoa, I didn't know there was more people out there that wanted to do this while they were in the military. And I was like, well, yeah, I served, and I would love to do this. I was an accidental landlord like most military members are. So let's make this a little bit, let's see if there's anybody else out there that wants to learn from us. So we just started sharing our experience. It was just Facebook Lives. We were just doing interviews with each other and talking about, hey, we just bought this asset and this is how it went. This is the good, bad, and ugly. And then people started asking questions. And then okay, wait, we're onto something here. Because if you listen to your audience as it grows, they'll tell you what they need next. And that's why we have all these ancillary business branches, because, our communities has spoken, and they said they wanted better lending. They wanted better insurance. They wanted better this, that, or the other thing. And we lead with education. About 90% of what we do is free. And we're really, really just happy that we found this niche and built this up for military members.
Eric, I love what you're doing with these veterans and how you continue to serve and create value for other people. It's just amazing. Where can our viewers find out more information about you, and where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Real Eric Upchurch. Some people give me a hard time about that because I don't know if there's like a fake Eric Upchurch anywhere. But anyway, Real Eric Upchurch, or you can email me. I'm going to give you my email. If any military members need assistance, please hit me up. I am always glad to serve. Eric at activedutypassiveincome.com. I will make sure to steer you in the right direction.
Man, that is fantastic. This has been just great today. You've done a great job. And I thank you for coming on our podcast with us. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to find it very motivating and just a great learning experience. Hey guys, help us to grow the Lee Labrada Show by sharing this podcast with one of your friends, and be sure to hit the subscribe button. All right, you guys, stay motivated, get up and look up. God bless.
The Lee Labrada Show.
My life flashes right before me. Thunder from a distant shore. Voices in my head imprison me.